Welcome to Real Talk with Sean, everybody. This evening, I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Deonte Moss. Thank you so much for joining me, Deonte. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on your platform. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before I even ask my first question, I want to commend you for overcoming the circumstances that you were faced with as a child to see where you are now in life. I definitely I'll give you the respect of calling you a strong Black man.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Daggone right. I like to give props where they're due. So my first question to you is, at what age did you even enter into the foster care system?
So the first time I was in foster care system, I was in third grade. I believe I was 7 years old.
Wow.
I was 7. I was taken away from my grandmother, who I call Nana. But I was left by my mother to her at 3 years old. My father went to prison, and my mom, who was always trying to get away from my father, who was very manipulative and abusive to her, felt like I guess she had a way out when he went to prison. So she left me over my father's mother's house, which is my Nana, and then we stayed with her for a couple of years, but she got sick. She couldn't take care of me and my 2 little sisters like she wanted to. The school started noticing, and that was my first stint in foster care. I was in third grade, 7 years old.
Wow, man. So when you were sent to foster care, how did that affect you? And first, before I even ask that question, were you all kept together as siblings?
No, that's one of the reasons why I advocate today for sibling separation, because I was separated. I was put in a foster home by myself, and my sisters was placed in a foster home together, and then they were eventually separated. So I lived in 10 different foster homes and 4 different group homes, but I've never had the experience of being in a foster home with any of my siblings. So we were all disregarding that area, and my first foster home was like just foreign to me. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be with my Nana and my sisters, and I felt like everything was snatched from me, and I was placed in a place by myself. I barely even spoke to my first foster family. It was like a very old couple. I kind of like just locked myself in this room, not literally, but just like stayed in there. And it wasn't no TV or nothing in there. It was only like a clock radio, and it wasn't even my preference for music. It was just like this channel, Tower 98. They only played rock. And I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, wrapped in plastic. It's fun, but I learned all the songs because that's the only thing I listened to all day.
Right. So, like, how did it make you feel? Now, I can assume because of what you just explained, right? So, I mean, that kind of sums it up. But, like, how did it really make you feel? Like, did you, at any point of going through this, did you feel like you were a problem? Did you ever process anything like that as a child?
I don't know if I felt like I was a problem, but it seemed like stuff never went my way. Whatever I wanted to happen, the things that I wanted done, I felt like my voice wasn't heard. So like I would try to, I guess, to cope or to even try to be heard. I might be a little mischievous or, stop one, like my first particular foster home, I didn't speak. And I think social workers noticed, so they switched me to another foster home with more kids, more boys that I can interact with, which was a smart move, So I was able to have fun with those boys, like playing basketball, going outside, going to the park, playing football. Some of the kids was my age; they was in the same grade as me, and I was kind of getting close with those fellas. And I stayed there for a minute, but my foster mom, who I stayed with at that time when in my second foster home, ended up passing away while we were there, so we had to all relocate.
Wow. Did any of you all stay together? Because now you have found a sense of family there. You found children that you can relate to, or guys in particular that you can relate to, that you had something in common with. And I'm assuming you actually opened up to that particular foster parent, and now he or she is gone. Like, how did that affect you? Because I know that was a big blow.
It was bittersweet. And the reason why I say it's bittersweet is because we called her Big Mama. No pun intended, but her name was Big Mama.
I got you.
And she was like my first real mother figure that I remember, like just showing me love and attention that I remember that I just loved and respected. Uh, the reason why I say it's bittersweet is because I found out my mom had got clean
Okay.
and she was going to regain custody of us,
Okay.
and she was going to get me and my two little sisters back, and we were going to create this family again. So I was kind of like, I'm sad. My big mama gone, but my real mom is coming back, and I didn't desire to be a foster kid. So I was thinking like, okay, now we about to be reconnected. I just didn't know that my mom had this boyfriend, and it was going to take an even bigger turn.
Oh, so now she gets you back now, and I'm assuming she got you back and your two sisters. So now
She
you
did.
all are finally a family, every kid's dream. They have their mommy. And you said that she had a boyfriend now that apparently was
Yep.
not something positive in your life. What happened
He
with
wasn't. He he suffered from PTSD. He was in the military. He used to work on the railroad, all kind of stuff. He was 25 years older than my mother. Now they had met in like meetings and substance abuse meetings, and they was like he was like a counselor type guy for like AA meetings and stuff like that. So they had built this relationship off of that, and then they were, she had got clean and she was getting herself together. He had got clean, and but he ended up relapsing.
Mm,
And when he relapsed, he never recovered. So he went back to crack cocaine
okay.
and those type of things. And then my mom started going back, and then he started molesting my sister. So that became a whole thing. And then while molesting my sister, my mom went back out in the streets, became a prostitute. And then my sister started using drugs. And
Oh
my
man.
mom and my sister were prostitute together.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So the cycle continued now with another offspring, an offspring of your mother. The cycle
Mm-hmm.
started to continue. So how long did this go on? I'm assuming you all were taken again because of the drug use and the prostitution.
Much later. We kind of knew the strings
Okay.
and everything about foster care, so it's kind of like under wraps.
Okay.
What happens in your house, stay in your house. Don't nobody
I
want to go
did.
back to foster care.
Right.
Uh, but then me and my sister were in like court order programs because I was in a lot of programs, and the reason why I was in a lot of programs because I was I guess they would call me a nuisance in the school system because man, I fought almost every day in junior high and high school because my mom was addicted to drugs, a prostitute, and so was my sister. Most of the drug dealers in my neighborhoods was kids that went to my school. So I hear every day about what my mom and my sister did for drugs. And back then, can't nobody talk about your family but you.
Yeah.
Mama used to do some of the biggest words that you could say. You say somebody's
Line
mama,
about the
you had to go in their mouth. It was like an
right.
unwritten spoken rule or something like that. So
Right.
that's kind of how I developed my class clowning as a coping mechanism
Yeah.
because I want to make everybody laugh and so they could be my friends so they don't talk about my mom or my sister or my situation. So I started developing this class clown mentality and then fighting all the time. But as many fights as I get, if I'm fighting everybody because they talk about my mom or my sister, I done
Right.
been in multiple fights and everybody done been in a fight with me. They say, you
Right.
the
Right.
problem. You the problem, Deonte. You gotta go.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right. But little do
that's what
they
was
know,
happening.
and that's the thing, little do they know that underneath all of that, there's a hurt young man that's deep down inside going through all of this that of course you know now that did not know how to express that or have the correct words to use to say what you were really feeling or going through. So I
And it
can
was some that recognized it. It was some that recognized it, and they
okay.
helped. You know what I'm saying? And I mentioned and honored them in my book that I wrote,
That's what's up.
but majority didn't, or
And
they
that, and
didn't know
that's
how.
and that's the sad part, and that's part of why I know, and we're going to get into that as far as what you do, and speaking out about what's necessary to speak out about in this world, things like what you went through, they go unnoticed. We as adults, we see things, but some of us choose just not to get involved because we want to act like we don't see it because it's a headache or it may be too much to interfere, but we need to call things out and be the people that's why our people suffer, because we don't help each other. We see things and ignore them. So what happened when you finally decided, you know what? Because that's funny hearing where you were doing all of these things and causing the chaos. and here sit before me a doctor. You know, so at what point did you decide to say, you know what, to hell with this, like I'm not going to become a part of the circumstances that I've been brought up in?
Well, I always had like a sense of like I'm gonna be successful. I'm
Yeah.
gonna turn myself into somebody. But I think I was doing it for the wrong. I definitely was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was doing it at first thinking like, don't nobody want me, don't nobody care about me. My mama don't want me. My daddy ain't been there. Watch, I'm gonna be so successful, and I'm gonna come back to him like, y'all didn't want me. Look at me.
Right.
But because of my relationship with God and the relationship that my faith, uh, I gave my life to Christ early as a teenager because one of my foster parents, a guy that basically raised me to the end, he had a relationship with God, and I just wanted to know the God that he was just in tune with because I had never met like a positive man like this.
Mhm.
But that was really what led me to getting on the right track, my
Gotcha.
faith, and it took me to another level. It made me understand generational curses and how my mom behaved. I had got to learn a lot about that. Her being molested by her father, raped um, by her, his friends, and going in and out of orphanages. It didn't
Right.
make it okay what she did, but it made me understand that the
There you go.
generational curses that was going down in my family that needed to be broken. My father
Absolutely.
in and out of my life, seen my father maybe like 5 times before I was 21. I saw him at a corner store one time. He didn't know who I was as a kid. I died that day because I'm like, he had got out of prison. I didn't know he was out of prison. He's always been in and out of prison. But when I seen him at a corner store, I recognized him. I'm like, oh my God, that's my dad. I know that. I know that face. And I'm like, hey, ain't your name? And he like, yeah, what's up, man? All right, man. And I'm
Wow.
like, hold on, wait a minute. You don't know me? So I went to visit my nana one day and he was over there.
Right.
And I felt like the only reason he recognized me was because I'm visiting my nana and she know who I am. So he like, son, I'm like, you not my dad? You didn't know me? You don't know who I am? We
Right.
ended up getting a fist fight that. We ended up getting to a physical fist fight. And I thought I beat up my dad, but
Biological
my
father.
dad showed me the difference between the man that day held me by my neck in the sky until I felt like I couldn't breathe no more. My nana was hitting him with a napkin, like, get off him, you go kill him. I'm like, nana, hit him with a hammer or something. I'm about to lose my life. But I
Wow.
wouldn't see him again until I was an adult. And when I saw him as an adult, ironically, it was at another corner store. And I go in a corner store, I come out, and I feel like he was about to ask me for like change or something. But when I seen him, he looked me dead in my eyes and started crying. And he started telling me all these things that I did in my life that I didn't even know he knew, or he was keeping tabs on me. He was like, yeah, man, I heard you went to college. I heard you traveled the world. I heard you had a daughter. You know what I'm saying? I heard you doing this. I heard your sister is doing this and doing that. And I'm like, how does he know all this stuff? And I haven't seen him or nothing. But because of my relationship with God, I knew I had to forgive him. And I've been watching Oprah, and I was watching Ayana Fix Your Life. She fixed
Uh-huh.
people's lives. And she was telling you, it's not, forgiveness is not for the perpetrators, for the
You're
victim,
right.
and stuff like that. So all this stuff was into my head at the right time, like the right season.
Right.
Because that's
Right.
how God worked, right?
That's true.
So I started taking God, I started taking my dad to church with me, you know what I'm saying? And
That's
we
what's
started
up.
talking to each other on the phone. And I had one of the most, this conversation that my dad gave to me is what I think was the turning point in the turning point in my life.
Mhm.
And I knew what, like, I was here, and a purpose, another second part of my purpose was because my dad went to church with me, and
Mhm.
after church service, the praise and worship was high, and we came out, and he asked me, he said, teach me how to be a man. And I said,
Right.
what?
Right.
I was
Wow.
like, this is my biological father. He asked me to teach him how to be a man. I said, what do you mean? He said, all my life I had issues. I had problems. I had things I battled with. I didn't know how to cope with. He said, that's why I sold drugs. That's why I used drugs. That's why I was in and out of prison. He said, but you had trauma, all kind of stuff, and you handle it. And look at you. You
Yep.
coming out flawless. I
Yep.
want to serve the God you serve, and I want to be a man. Teach me how to be a man. And my life changed in that moment because I knew my success wasn't for me no more. God had ordained me to go back and get my family. I was going to be the person in my family to break generational curses. I was going to go back and get my mom, go back get my dad, go back get my sister. I just knew at that moment that it was like God was telling me that it's time to go get him.
Right. No, exactly. And that's exactly what it was. And I actually commend your dad for being able to acknowledge through your life where he messed up and what he was missing, the things that he had been through. Not only that, to me, he showed how much he was a man by actually saying that he had problems.
And I'm glad you said that, because I had to speak at an event for Father's Day, and I honor my father.
That's what's up.
Because a lot of people don't honor their father on Father's Day or even celebrate Father's Day because they didn't feel like they had the proper relationship with their father. But my father has been everything that I needed him to be later on in my years. From that day forward, my father has stepped up and, you know, he lived around the corner from me. We used to talk every day. I go over there, slide, and, you know, my father still do him. You know what I'm saying? He think he a pimp. He think, you know what I'm saying? He kick it. But I learned a lot about myself by interacting with him. And now, like, empty place in my heart that was empty is now full, because, like, I'm around him and I'm experiencing, learning more about myself. I don't agree with everything he do, but I learn more about me by watching him. I find out some of my triggers and what I need to stay away from and what I need, you know what I'm saying, just by watching him. But he's always been who I needed to be in my later years, like with just conversation, talking, you know what I'm saying? He's always a person that I can just call and just talk to. And I had to thank him and honor him on Father's Day, because we need to get back. Maybe our fathers wasn't there for us as kids, or not being there when we felt like we needed them. But if they came back and they stepped up and did what they're supposed to do, that's a big step. And I'm glad you said that, because that's what my dad did.
No, and that's what I think it's about. It's not about, you know, because we can't go back and change the past, but when you acknowledge it and then do better, that's what matters more. Because I mean, we're going to mess up. We're going to mess up until the day we die. The key is to acknowledge it and do better.
Because people know when they're wrong.
Exactly.
And then sometimes they try to fix it. That's what my mom did. My mom went to prison for a long time.
Okay.
After, you know, she got caught with the situation. We jumped back in foster care from prostituting and my sister. They was prostituting together. So she got caught and charged with all that. And she blamed us when we went to prison. When she went to prison, she said, it's y'all fault. They shouldn't have known our business. So everybody's like, you don't have to talk to your mom. Your mom tripping. She crazy. You know what I'm saying? Leave her alone, whatever. But my mom she was on crack cocaine. She got to sober up while she was in prison, and she was reaching out to us. And we wasn't having it. We wasn't having it. God told me to talk to my mama. He said, you need to speak to your mama, because your mama was addicted to drugs. She wasn't thinking clearly. Now she's thinking clearly, and she's trying to fix it, and you pushing her away. And you know what happens when you push people away? They go to numb, they hurt and they pain. That's why they was going to drugs in the first place.
That is so
correct.
I
talked to my mama, my mom's been clean ever since.
Wow. Now, isn't that...
She got out of prison, and now she's celebrating like a decade of sobriety. So
please tell her.
I celebrate her too.
You should. I mean, you should. Like I said, you look at where you've been and then look at where you are now. That's what matters most, you know. And sometimes it does take, you know, the children to go back to the parents and say, hey, you know, this is what happened. This is the way it made me feel, this. And if they can acknowledge that, then they deserve forgiveness, you know, because again, none of us are perfect. So everybody deserves forgiveness when they can acknowledge their wrongs and then apologize for it. So how's y'all, like you said, y'all, I was going to ask you, you just said y'all relationship is all good today, huh? Or both?
Man, when I say it's a God thing and I feel like God can heal anything, that's what I really mean. Because I have an excellent relationship with my parents now. You know, I tell these stories and I tell what happened to me in my life and all that. But I think it's even better when I get to tell the end of it. Exactly. And I say that God has connected our family in ways that I never could imagine. You know, saying because the story is crazy. It's a crazy story. And I tell it, and I wrote about it in my book and everything. And you tell the story and everybody like, what? But the fact that I could tell that story and then have a good and great relationship with my biological parents now to this day is just like even more of a blessing. I believe that's how God works.
It is. I mean, it clearly is. I mean, you're proof that that is what it is. So what about your sister? Is she good today? She clean? Everything good with her?
Yeah, my sister's good. I got a sister that lives in Arizona.
Mhm.
She's doing her thing. She's just bought a beautiful home down there. She's raising her kids down there, doing her thing. I got another sister that's in Colorado, and she's doing her thing. Now she battles with some stuff. She's still dealing with some things that she went through, but she's definitely in a better place than where she used to be, you
That's
know.
key.
But I
That's
want them to write books and tell stories and make documentaries and stuff like that. So, but they said they not ready for that part yet.
oh,
So
it's gonna come though. It's gonna
they
come.
said, yeah, that's what I said. They
The
said
story's
they
still
get ready.
being written.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell everybody, like, so I know you got your doctorate. Now, how did the book come about? What made you decide to finally share your story with the world?
So I always knew that I was supposed to write the book
Mhm.
by a certain time. I felt like God gave me that revelation as my purpose and my why. And he told me if I did what he told me to do, he'll he'll give me what I want and what I want. Let me do what I want to do if I did what he did first. So the book is basically how I navigated through the juvenile justice system, foster care, you know, and all that stuff, and became Dr. Moss. Now I became Dr. Moss. Hold on, let me get this question right. I feel like I went off point. What's the
No, you're
question that
good.
you
I was
asked me?
saying, what made you decide to write the book and tell everybody your story? Because it's a good
It was
story.
he. It became healing for me, and
Okay.
it almost became therapeutic.
Right.
Um, some stuff I never said out loud till I wrote in that book. And then I was able to have to talk about it because I'm going on, you know, doing book signings and tours, and they're
Exactly.
like, chapter, verse, you
Right.
said, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I did say that. Well, you know, so I had to a healing came
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
talking about it out loud, and then finding out that I'm one the only person dealing with some of these things.
Yep.
It's other people all around the world that was dealing
All
with some of
around.
the same things I dealt with. And it became therapeutic for me. So now I want to talk about it more. I want to find ways to help other kids and
Exactly.
all kind of stuff, who's been molested and
Yep.
didn't
Yep.
grow up. And I want to help all that. You know what
So
I'm saying? And I never talked about it, but now when I put the book out there, it's for everybody to get. I mean, it's for
exactly.
everybody to, it's for
Yeah.
everybody to have. Now they can read and see it. So now I'm in the open and I feel like I'm free more.
I'm
Like
telling
I'm
you, it
more of a
is.
free
It is a
person.
sense of
Yeah.
freedom. Yep. To be able to just release all of that hurt. You can only flourish to me when you release all of that, because then you don't have anything holding you down no more. And like you said, I commend you for that, because it's hard sometimes for men, period, but especially for Black men to be vulnerable like you are, and like you have done and are still doing by speaking up. And so that's why I said I'm always down for commending my Black man when it's necessary. I give props to those that deserve it. Yeah. So I mean, I'm glad you're doing your thing.
We us Black men definitely hide a lot of stuff and don't bring a lot of stuff. We taught to like kind of be hard and
Yep.
not get it out. But
Mhm.
like even being molested, I tell that story about how I was sexually assaulted in my book. And
Okay.
when I tell that story, I didn't say nothing when it happened because
Right.
embarrassment and
Mm-hmm.
all kind of things, and I didn't want nobody to know,
Yeah.
basically.
Yep. Yep. Oh, I get
So,
it.
but then I found out that when I told my story, and what I had to realize is that he he didn't stop with me. She didn't stop with me.
See.
You know what I'm saying? So it affected other kids.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? So I felt like I should have spoke up, and maybe I could have saved some other kids.
Yeah.
And that's the
You're
type of
doing it
things that we
now.
need to think about it. You know what
I
I'm saying?
get it.
Yeah, that's why I had to.
No. Right. Right. I get it, because
Because I ended
it
up
makes
having a conversation
you.
later
Yep.
with another kid that I grew up
Yep.
with on the block. Like, she did that to you?
That shit
Like, you know what I'm saying?
crazy.
Like,
You'd
yeah,
be
like, and I'm
shocked.
like, oh, and I
Ain't that
didn't know
shit
then.
crazy?
You know, and then
Crazy.
it don't affect everybody the same.
It doesn't.
Everybody don't heal the right
No.
way or correctly.
There you
Everybody ain't
go. They
writing their
don't heal
stuff
the
down
right
and
way.
it ain't being, yeah.
Yep.
Some
Sometimes.
people still ain't saying nothing.
Yep. You're right. You're right. And it's time to speak out. And I'm glad that we're in a generation or era that people are really starting to speak out. Nobody's holding things in anymore. I mean, we're in a generation where, for the most part, because I mean, like you said, men with things like molestation, yeah, it's like I feel like some men won't say anything because they feel like it takes their manhood away, not realizing that you were a victim, and men can be victims as well, or boys can be victims. So yeah, I'm glad that you are, again, speaking about it and letting other young men and men know, yo, it does happen to us, and it's okay to speak about it. And it doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you more to say something about it.
Because we have to be aware of, we have to make it aware. And you know how traumatizing it is? And just think about some of the situations that happen. Like you going to Thanksgiving dinner every year to see your uncle that's been touching the kid, it's almost like hidden, especially in the black community sometimes. Like like molestation and stuff like that. It's like taboo. You don't talk about
Right.
it.
Right.
But
Yep.
don't put nobody in our business. But then what about the people that was affected
I'm
and
telling you,
hurt,
isn't
and
that?
now they gotta go around these people that was messing with them at
Yep.
early ages and stuff like that. And
It's so traumatizing. Yep.
yeah,
And that is the way it used to be. And it's still that way for some. And that is sad because we protect the person that is hurting people, and the victim suffers constantly because nobody wants them to say anything. And that happens a lot, especially in our community. I mean, we're the same. It happens a lot in our community, and it's sad.
and that's not helping to anybody. That's not helping them or them, the victim or the perpetrator.
True. That's true. You're absolutely right about that. So now, before I let you go, tell everybody where they can follow you, where we can get the book, everything you have going on. Hey, y'all, before he say that, when I say his TikTok is hilarious, but he can already tell you where to follow him. So go ahead and tell everybody where to follow you, Deonte.
All right, so on Facebook, you can follow me at Deonte Moss. Instagram is at Deonte Moss. And then also TikTok is at Deonte Moss. But Twitter is Dr. Deonte Moss. And then you can find my book anywhere books are sold. It's Push Parent Until Something Happen Every Day. It's how I navigate through the juvenile justice system, foster care, drug addicted parents, but faith got me to my journey to Dr. Deonte Moss. And that's available anywhere. You can get that at Amazon, #1 seller on Amazon, but it's at Walmart. You can get it on eBay. You can get it at probably your local library. I mean, it's everywhere. Just Google it
Everywhere,
and you
y'all.
can find a copy. So I'm blessed. But yep, at Deonte Moss on all social media,
Well,
except for Twitter.
I,
Dr. Deonte
I
Moss.
appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you're doing. And y'all go find him, because him and his wife also have an organization where you all do couples therapy, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we are marriage influencers. Marriage
Okay.
is not the most popular thing right now. So we want to promote our marriage because when we got married, it wasn't a lot of people in our family married. So we
Right.
instantly became like this example of marriage, but we didn't know
Right.
what the heck we was doing at all.
Right. Right.
So we celebrated like 11 years. We got married 11, 11, 11. It'll be 11 years in
Congratulations.
November. So we wanted to figure out how to make marriage work. So we started researching skills, tools, challenges to and
Challenging
including God
yourself too.
in our marriage, including God in our marriage, because we don't do marriage alone, which is
Right.
one of our mottos, and start figuring it out. But we like, sure, we figuring stuff out. Why don't we just share with other people? And that's
That's
how
true.
Awesome Marriage was started. It's where we share schools, skills, tools, and challenges about marriage because you gotta put in the work.
That's true. It,
Marriage ain't if you ain't putting in no work, it ain't for the weak.
it's not going to work if you don't put in the work.
Stay
I mean,
single
that's with
because
anything in life.
yeah, but you got to put in work to make it
Yep,
work. And
yep,
and
yep.
I'm just happy that I got somebody putting in work with me.
That's what's up. Tell her I said, hey, you got a good husband. It appears to be.
And
Appears to
she
be.
she she a good. She's a doctor too, but her
I
doctor's in
see.
education. Mine is in theology, so we put that together to
That's
do the Boston marriage thing. But yeah, I got a
our
good one.
couple.
I did good. God
No, that's
bless
right,
me.
man. Now, I got one last question for you before I let you go. Will you promise me to always spread peace and love in this world?
I promise. I always spread peace and love.
Thank you so much. And I thank you again for joining me, and I really, really enjoyed our conversation.
Well, thank you, Real Talk, for having me. I appreciate you, Sean, and thank you for everything. Have me on your platform, and I hope to watch you continue to share your peace and love with the world like you've been doing.